ever had a conversation with somebody that you're trying to sell something to and you walked out, you didn't get the sale, or you're completely confused because the person seemed like they were totally disconnected from you, or they didn't like you, or you thought they didn't like you, or you just couldn't close the sale because you just don't know what just happened when you walked out the door or when you had the conversation close on the phone? Well, I'm going to talk about 4 different things that you can focus on when you're having conversations with people. But before I do, my name is Lila, and I help people level up to 6 and 7 figures with their online courses through a relationship-based sales methodology. So let's go ahead and dig in. Okay, so now there are a few common mistakes that can ruin client relationships and loyalty during the relationship sale process. The most common mistake, number 1, is not listening to what the client has to say. We've talked about this a few times before in other recordings that I've done, but this is a really big thing, okay? Because this can lead to misunderstandings and can truly damage your relationship that you have with them, okay? People who are trying to sell are usually thinking about what their own agenda is. So even when the person is talking, it's really typical of them to keep thinking about what you're going to say next instead of just sitting back and absorbing what they are saying to you and listening, okay? I've seen this happen so often when I used to work with sales reps, and they were so eager to sell and jumped on the first thing that someone had to say. And instead of clearly waiting until the end, they clearly ruined the chances of selling anything because they didn't listen to what their pain point was. And because they didn't listen to the pain point, they completely destroyed the relationship. So this is very important that you need to make sure that you're listening. I know that people say this all the time, but we go into this in a little bit more detail. The second most common mistake is trying to sell them something that they don't need. How many times has somebody been in your inbox or whatever and said, like, for example, for me, I've had people say, oh, I got this great weight loss thing. Well, I don't need to lose any weight, right? So first of all, it's almost insulting, right? Second of all, it's just weird that somebody would do that. So you don't want to do that, okay? Because this is going to make them feel uncomfortable, and most likely they're not going to want to do business with you, okay? Again, this comes from truly not listening. I had a rep one time sit down across from a physician table, and he went through his whole spiel. And at the end, when he was done talking, the physician looked up and said, I don't treat those kind of patients. So that whole 20 minutes that could have been extremely valuable and we could have actually sold something was just wasted because he didn't take the time to uncover who he was, what he did, where he had pain points. And do you think this physician ever wanted to talk to them again? No, highly unlikely, right? Like, who wants to welcome someone who's going to come in and doesn't listen? The other thing that was very interesting about this conversation, now, of course, you can't see this if you're not live with somebody. If you're on the telephone, sometimes you can't see this. That's why I like to see people when I talk to them, right? Like either FaceTime or Zoom or whatever. If you're online, but if you're face to face with somebody, and you are not paying attention to somebody's body language, this is a real big thing. You need to watch for signs in somebody's body language as well. It's so key because you can tell if they're kind of like pushing back in their chair or they're just kind of looking around or whatever. And you can tell something's not clicking. Either you're making them feel uncomfortable or whatever. You have to watch for those signs, okay? Number 3 is making assumptions about what they want to tell you is going to ruin your relationship. So you're just assuming that you know what the situation is instead of really understanding. So it's really important to take the time to understand their needs so that you can provide them for what they're looking for. Okay. This is a system that I talk about in my coaching program. And it's a way to truly listen, but to also paraphrase back what they just said to make sure you understood them clearly. And when you feel understood, right, don't you feel like you're more likely to have an extended, longer conversation time with your client? Don't you feel like, oh my gosh, this person is listening to me, they really care about me? And a lot of times they can correct you as well, right? Like you can say, so did you mean that you wanted this to happen in order for you to proceed? And the person go, no, that's okay. Like, but I do want this part of it, right? So you're very clear about where you can insert yourself into the situation. And number 4 is the big one, right? Failing to follow up after making a sale is also a common mistake that ruins client relationships and loyalty all the time. I see this happen all the time. And as you've often heard, right, the fortune is in the follow-up. Well, it's important to stay connected with your clients in order to maintain that relationship. And if you don't, they're going to feel ignored and they're going to move on to work with somebody else or your competitor or something like that, where they feel that they are being heard and they're feeling like they are being respected. Okay, that's so key. But however, there is a right way to follow up as well, because you never want to come across salesy or pushy or aggressive, because this is surely going to ruin you, and it's going to be your one-way ticket out the door forever. So I want you to learn to be persistently nice, and you will be welcomed more often. So I hope this helped and brought you guys some value. If it did, say #value below. And I'm having an upcoming masterclass. It's going to be pretty soon. Don't know the dates yet. But if you would like to be a part of the masterclass, all you have to do is say masterclass below, and we will get you on the wait list when that is going to be happening soon. So hope you guys have a great day,